This is the second episode of Roots of Creation. Welcome. I'm Andy Rouse. I'm joined by Jake Hagstrom and Dananaki Dan, and our first guest, Michel Merle. How are you doing, Michel?
Like I said, I hope I am okay. So we can try to start to, for a larger public, make understandable the concept of Bock Saga. And yeah, I'm happy to take part in it. I'm impressed that we are, after many years, slowly starting to come to this kind of thing where you have the possibility to go a bit deeper into subjects, or maybe not too deep straight from the beginning, but over time, like we have to start with the foundation. And the foundation of this story is the language, and that is the thing which I think is interesting to talk about, but also all the side effects that come out of language, because basically out of language come all the dictionaries that we have on the planet. Yeah, so
Yeah.
when they talk about the magic books where everything is ordered nicely, and then comes double and then comes double B, if that happens to be the case in your language. If not in yours, it's maybe in Malay or Polynesian or Icelandic. And then you go from B, B, and like the magic book has been making like an organized structure where we can see that words, when they are alphabetically put under each other, all these words seem to have to do with the words that are following, or the words that are preceding that word, because they consist of similar sound.
Yes.
And Bock Saga is the story of sound, and the fact that in the Bock family they have been keeping the meaning of sound. So their language, which is called root, which is exactly the same like the English word root, the root of the tree or the root of language. This language is called root in root language, as it is in English language, because the English language and the root language are very close. So the root language has an alphabet that consists of 29 sounds, where these 29 sounds have a meaning. And it's the only story that I know where each individual sound have a meaning, where within the meaning, which also consists of sound. So if I give an example, like they have the sound which in English is A, but in root it's And means aser. So aser consists of A-S-A-R. So all of this sound create like the quality of the sound So you have to start to think in sound instead of in written letter, because we already see like the difference between the root and the English, where we say in English you say A, where we say A you say E, and where we say E you say I. And that creates for massive confusion in the beginning, but it's coming very clear by itself, because you in English, you can think your sound, how you write them. So when you say A, you are making exactly the same mark of the sound as we do in root. It's just that you pronounce it different. The same is with E. For us, it's A, but we write it E like your E. And the I for us is E, what for you is I. But I for us is in English this thing what I look with. So for you this is I, which will make like how would you call that? An association to your eye, where by us it's a clear sound, because I is not a clear sound. I for us is A and E.
Right.
I is A and E for us, where for you it makes
Ye.
the association to A, yeah? And
We
this
say
kind
that
of,
when we hurt ourselves.
sorry?
I.
We say that when we hurt ourselves, you know.
Yeah. Then also, yeah, you can say, yeah.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. So, and there is like a few funny thing, but this is interesting when we go through the alphabet in root and in English, you know, that you can see
Yeah.
that there is like a difference in the structure of how they name the sounds. So in the root language, we have 10 clear sounds, like A, E, I, U, 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 O, So they are all sound you can do
Oh,
endlessly. Yeah, as much breath you have in your
this
lungs.
hidden is very easy to forget.
Yeah, but this is like it come quite late in our story also, because Ior he didn't want to create too much confusion, because his story is already quite confusing in the beginning. But everything becomes self-evident, because this is exists in the root language in sound, but not in written form.
No.
They are using the ring with the two dots on top, which you call yeah, and this is a ring with axis through it, which is
In the
only used,
Norwegian.
I think, in Norwegian and Danish.
Hmm.
So in the neighboring countries, areas, they use the mark of this sound. But in Finland, the root language has never been written. It has been a spoken language. Of course, they could write, but that segment will take later on. But because the root language is the Swedish language is the most close to the root language. And now, since 1050, when Finland became a part of Sweden, in the bureaucratic system, the Swedish language, written form, was introduced in Finland as the written language. So these root people, after 1050, they have been using the Swedish writing system to write their own language, but because that did not consist of this ring with this axis in it, the sound, they just use like the Swedish, the ring with the two dots on top. But maybe I'm talking here too complicated stuff.
No.
No.
We
No?
follow.
We
You
follow.
can
We
follow.
sit like in the classroom here now. So.
You tell
Yes.
me when you can't follow, because I can understand that for a listener it sounds like abracadabra.
No.
No, I think you're doing a good job of explaining
try.
it well. Yeah.
I try.
It's better to take the long route, I think, anyway. So.
That's
The
what we
long
have to
route-
do on this podcast anyway. I mean, we want people to understand more than anything else, because I think there's a lot of misconception out there, and there's been growing confusion, which isn't, but it's because it's becoming more popular. I think, I think more people are getting turned on to it. So
Yes.
Yeah, it has been taking its time, So
Yeah.
That's a problem with the Box Saga. I can see a little bit. It's so huge concepts that you really need to think about, and it's so easy to get a little bit wrong when the hybrids almost take over. When it start to fall, the pieces fall together, you get excited and you sort of stop listening almost and start to use two things.
go off
Oh,
on your
yeah,
own
that's it.
tangents. Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course. I mean,
So-
I had the same problem, in the beginning when my friend tells me that, hey, it was 24 February 1984, and in the morning when we come back from some party somewhere on the beach in Goa, full moon party, dancing all night, and then you are totally flabbergasted early in the morning, walking we had a beach back to your house, and we lie on the veranda, and one is making a cup of tea, and the other one is trying to make some sandwich, and for all of us. And then we are sitting there, and he says that today I have to tell you one story about one alphabet that they have been keeping in my family. And we already knew from him that he never been to school, you know. So he or not been to school. He been visiting there, but it was not a great success because he should be educated at home by his mother and his mother's sister on Bock Saga, and not go to school so that you get totally confused in your brain, like that first section of the story what I just told, where you are then confronted with this confusion because in the school they say, oh, you have to do like this, and from your mother you listen, no, it's like this, you know. So school was out for him. Yeah, it was not really his program. He has been spending there a couple of days in order to fulfill some kind of bureaucratic requisite or something. I don't know how to call it. But basically, he has been educated at home from when he was 7 years old by his mother and his mother's sister. And they had to sit, and he had to sit and shut up for 20 years, 2 hours every day. So it's a story that you can explain its basic principle by one kid from 7-year-old listening to 27. And then when you are in that age, you have been figuring out how this sound system is working, and you can apply it and you can do your private research. But now we want to speed up that process because me and the friends that you will meet on your show that are coming up, we have been a little bit in the same situation like him, that we have to sit and listen and shut up. You just have to listen because in the time things become clear. Now, of course, we are educated at school, in school. So, of course, the opposition was hitting him after 5 minutes. Yeah, because after 5 minutes, the attention span of the kids is gone. And they say, but I have been hearing like this, or I have been understanding like this, and I know from this book, blah, 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 blah. And there we start to spew our knowledge of our life experience when we start to listen to Bock Saga. Now, I was 28 years old when he started with this program. I became 29 in 1984. And he told me straight from the beginning, it's a 20-year story. I say, I already been spending 9-10 years with you, so we have not had one fight yet, never throwing the door to each other, so I have nothing special to do. You know, I can listen to your story, no problem. Now, if you go to the university and you say to these kids there that now they have to listen for the next 20 years, I'm sure there is not one who will follow that curriculum. Yeah, because time is up and I have to pay the mortgage of my house, you know.
Yeah.
So I have
All
to
the
get my job.
distractions.
Yeah. So this is normal. And this story is absolutely 180 degree the opposite of normal, because it is
Yeah.
about natural. And on this planet and this life, what we live in the universe, we can call nature. And nature is us and everything that is outside of us. So the nature is the totality of existence. And that means that everything that has been happening in the history, if we put a time frame on it, are natural happenings. Yeah. So it's not a laboratorium program. It's a natural, organic, inorganic process of creating that what is.
Yeah. all of existence. Just
all of
consciousness.
existence.
Yeah.
The problem is that in their concept of nature, nature has no beginning and it has no end. Now, the totality of nature, they give the name of one power, because they don't talk about the God like we have the God concept coming from our culture. They talk about powers. And their biggest power, this power we just talked about, or I just talked about, they call U-Den. And U is one ring, and Den is, which you would say D-E-N in English language. They call U-Den. And U-Den is the totality of existence and is symbolized by one ring. So now one of the first strong saying in the mythology about the power of U-Den is that U-Den is a ring. U-Den is ever re-thing. U-Den has always been and U-Den will always be. And U-Den is the sun. Now, there they say already quite much, and you can break your balls on this one. So that means that everything that is in Uden. Everything that has been is in Uden, and everything that will be is in Uden. So the concept of heathendom has not a universal Big Bang. Because why you have a Big Bang when something has ever been and will always be? You don't need any Big Bang. But for the creation of the earth, the story holds different. Because the earth, it appeared one time in the history of Uden. So the earth is created out of Uden. So in that case, if they talk about Big Bang, they should apply it to the earth and not to the universe. Because the universe has no beginning, it has no end. It is ever re-thing. That means it always renews things, whichever form it takes.
When you put it into that perspective, it sounds very similar to what people would call Eden. Do you think that's what that meaning is? Is the nature of the whole world? And
Eden is a concept that comes later on the earth in that way. But it is a translation from Uden. Because in the book you can take away one ring and you put instead there one E, one A, and now you make Eden, Eden. Yeah, we say Eden in English, you say Eden. By this you can change the original association, and in that way you can send people on their respective trips. You have only to change a little in the sound, or you change the mark of a sound, and with that you can take away its originality and create a new association. Because we human beings, we are living by association. And we can only have good communication if we have understanding for each other's association. So if my association to a particular concept is totally diametrically opposed to your association with it, we get this kind of political discussion where you never come to a result because you think you are right and I think I am right. And those two never come to anything.
It's almost as if you think you're speaking the same language, but you're actually speaking completely different, like subconscious, intentional languages.
Yes. Yes.
You
And
notice,
I see this as one of the bigger problems of our time.
yeah.
You know,
Absolutely.
That's the problem.
We speak like never before. we can communicate like never before, and we have never been sitting in such a bunch of garbage bullshit as we are sitting in this moment. Yeah.
Yeah. And I've
So
noticed that specifically with language, if I mean, hey, I wear a tinfoil hat most of the time, and the big bad evil they, or whatever you want to call it, like the people running the show or whatever, seem to have been able to code language in order to kind of not like make us not realize what intention we're using when we're speaking. It's like that's kind of my interest in a lot of this, is how language seems to either be used for good or almost like twisted and kind of like hijacked in a way.
Yeah.
yeah, I think the different segments of society, um, they make their language exclusive. So if you don't speak the biochemist language, you will not understand what the fuck he's talking about. It's the same with any other subject. Bureaucratic language. I mean, we all get bombed by bureaucratic letters coming from some bureaucratic department. And if you start to read them, if you can read, yeah, because they always go out from that you can read. So they don't send you one tape or whatever. No, they give you one letter, and you have to have this kind of bureaucratic education in order to understand what's written there. Yeah, and we are having the language of human being has always been inclusive instead of exclusive. And our time is creating more and more and more exclusive language. Yeah, I mean, if you start to talk about the functioning of computer or on genetics, you lose me completely, man. I mean, I can't follow nothing of that subject. Yeah, so then you, according to them, you should first have to go 6 years to university before you can be part of their communication or conversation, which means exclusivity. And we all know we only have to look at this world what means exclusive. Yeah, and exclusive, being excluded is something that counts for most of the people on the planet. Yeah, you can of course give them a TV or what do you call it?
Video
Tablet,
games.
tablet or video
Tablet,
game,
yeah.
whatever, But hey, if you speak completely different language, you still look to each other like totally stupid. So there's no point. Yeah, and there I like very much the way that Bock Saga is giving information, which maybe in its foundation, because it's about a language and an alphabet, but it's only 29 sounds and their meaning. Now, basically today, I think everybody could learn 29 sound and their meaning and park them in your brain, and you in time, of course, nothing made in 7 days, in time you can apply that kind of understanding to every word that exists in whatever language on the planet. And there I find one key which I have been playing with myself in the last 29 years. And I'm a man you can't convince so quickly, because the whole reason I went to travel and go away from home was because you didn't really believe anymore in the fairy tale you grow up with, or the propaganda machine that you have to listen from that day that you go to school. So of course there are certain aspects of which have been very helpful in my life, like to learn about geography for me was God given, because I wanted to see the whole planet. Well, then it's pretty good if you have a bit of geographic knowledge in your brain, because it makes traveling or hitchhiking somewhere much more easy when you know which direction you want to go. Yeah, so there are of course many aspects which has been helpful for us. But I also know that 90% of the things I learned in school, I never applied in my life further on. I never needed it. So then you are wondering that if this is counting for most kids, that means also basically we are wasting 90% of our time. So there should be a more simple way of educating people based on natural knowledge by which they could all function according to nature and in the same time have understanding for each other. Yeah, and that means that you are uplifting the communication to one level where you are also uplifting the human being and also the interaction between human beings. Yeah, instead of trying to catch flies from each other, so that my profit is bigger than your profit. So I am Jeff Bezos and you are only Bill Gates, or whatever. It's like catching flies of each other and giving value to that in a stock market system. For me, it's totally ridiculous.
Mm.
Yeah.
Maybe that natural way of looking at that natural language almost is like the Tower of Babel,
The Tower of Rabel. Rabel's Tower. Rabel's Tower is one different information system than Babel's Tower. Yeah. So Rabel's Tower, I think you are familiar with the castle of the king and queen in Finland, the ruin that is standing there. I don't know if you really know, but there is one castle which is called Raasebori. And Raasebori has different towers, and one of the tower is a bell tower. And from Rabel's Tower, it's a little bit like what you in the pagoda style, which has the same function. When you stand under this clock or under this construction over you, you could speak with loud voice and thousands of people standing around could hear you. So it works like the principle of amplifying sound. And Ra is not the correct word. It's Seppo. The king is representing Ra. The queen is representing Ra. And that make that they sometimes had to tell something to their surrounding, and they could use their building with the people around, standing around, and in an amplified voice, they could give out the good news.
Wasn't there a lake around it also, so it would amplify even better? So
yes, of course, there is the castle is built on one kas. So one kas is one rock in the landscape, one little bit roundish rock. So it looks like one Dutch cheese, which we call kaas. We call cheese kaas. So now in Scandinavia, they call this kind of hill in the landscape or bedrock construction in the landscape, they call one kaas. And when you tell from the kaas, you have what you are actually presenting the castle, which you call castle then. Yeah, but if you say we say castle. You say castle, but you anyway write castel, or you put TLE instead of TEL. But anyway, it's like
you said, just a very little switch.
To switch in the brain with the English a little bit. Yeah. So with this kind of building, of course, Rabel's Tower as an information system in the original Heathen time, it was, of course, also existing as one mythological concept under many nations or under all nations on the world before. So to get rid of the association, you change the R into a B and you make Babel instead of Rabel. And now we make this Babylonian speech confusion instead of Rabelonian clearness.
Yeah, I've always, ever since I was a kid, I always wondered why the Tower of Babel or Babel, I used to pronounce it Babel. I'm like, it can't be Babel. Why would they call it Babel? That just means gibberish and nothing.
Isn't that funny? Yeah.
And oh, gee, isn't that funny?
But it must have something to do with Babylon.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
And
that's what I'm thinking
Babu,
too.
if you look Babu in the written form and now you pronounce it in the English language form, then you get baby. Yeah,
Yeah,
Mm,
baby. And the baby lawn.
yeah.
And what, yeah, lawn. Where do we find lawn? We have lawn
yeah,
in London, lawn, baby lawn or lawn. You have lawn with Lawn, Babylon, Babylon. Isn't that a place in the nature where before those ladies who like to have children are going to lie out in the field, in one beautiful field where they have like crowns with seven flower around their head or around them, and they are waiting for this guy who is making like one fuck L dance, fackel dance, who are there in the evening time coming in order to have fun with that girl who like to have one baby, who like to have one child. So it is maybe a little bit hiding something of a system that we had before,
Mm,
where our whole reason to live was to be part of creating the next generation. That was the number one prerogative of human being in order to create history. Because everybody can understand that when the lady don't want to have children anymore, that there is no reason for light to shine within the universe. Because
beautifully said.
there will be nobody who will be aware of it or see it, that this beauty which is surrounding us is existing. So their economy, for us it's economy. Yeah, economy is the highest thing. Né? And then it's interesting to see if you go into the word economy.
Mm,
Yeah, economy is starts with egg. Yeah. So A, B, C, D, E. The sound E means egg, and egg is what in English is oak tree. So all human beings belong to egg. All human beings belong to oak tree. So egg unomy must have to do with making children, not with making money. Of
right.
course,
The
of course
family
you
tree.
need Of course, you need the E of the man E, in order to impregnate that girl so that she can get her baby. But there you start to see that associations in the time have been changing. So for us,
mm,
what is money for us today was not in the concept of the people who lived before. We didn't need any money to exist. We, of course, in their concept, they need money to exist because they need the eye of the man in order to exist.
Mm.
Yeah. Then like this, when you go into the languages, you start to find out that there are incredible jokes actually hidden within the language because
And
it's the
puns
language.
are always put down usually, and people say
Of
puns
course,
are the lowest form of humor, but
of
it's
course.
not true.
No, it's the highest concept of understanding.
Oh, boom.
Because
Boom.
but it seems to be the way a
of
lot
course,
with
I mean,
humor and jokes. It
of
seems to
course,
be the trickster.
because the understanding is when your man E is understanding, then the understanding must come from when it's standing under. Yeah,
Of
because if it's
course.
not standing, it's not possible to take out sperm and make one baby. You know, so there is very clear
Yeah.
differentiation in filling in the language, you know. And if you listen today to all this professor giving beautiful etymologic explanation to the words, um, from a Box Saga perspective, we have to smile a little bit. And in the same time, we feel pity for them because they are already trying to work out since 500 years where everything come from. And with all their system, they haven't been able to really get it because they don't know from which language to start. So of course you can do that from the English perspective, or the Russian, or the Chinese, or the Hindi. But now there must be one language which is the first language. And then I have also to believe my friend, or trust my friend on his green eyes, that the first language on the planet is spoken by the Aser, because it's a natural language born with the coming into existence of these people and having meaning from that moment that he becomes 7 years old. But that is something we can explain further on in the story.
But it's yeah, we have been talking a little bit about that. If you really boil down the words, it's very like simple and very laughable about when we have been doing this a little bit, but it's just so.
Well, you can go on endlessly, like we have been doing it for years. So in the meantime, we have been going through half of the dictionary in this kind of thinking according to sound. Then there is opening one world for you, which it looks like you can't believe.
No.
Really, it shocked me out of my wits, man.
Yeah,
in the beginning,
me
because
too.
you are confronted with natural understanding instead of normal understanding. Now, this is also needs some explanation, because the word normal in English is coming from the root word normal. So what you call normal in Scandinavia or in Finland, in the south of Finland, they call normal. And the word nur means the north, and mal means one form. So the normal is the form from the north, the form of the north. Yeah.
It's
Now,
the norm.
Sorry?
It becomes the norm.
Yeah,
Yes.
of course. So the normal becomes the norm. Now, when the first human being arrive on the planet, they are born in the north, in Noor, in the exact North Pole, which happened to be on one island in front of the coast of Hell. And that place you can visit today, so no problem to find the old North Pole. And these people are born within the nature, so their normal is their understanding of their function within the nature. So their normal is going out. And their normal was going on for a long, long, long time until things changed. Like axis of the earth fall over, it went from perpendicular to the position where we are now. Yeah, so not only the earth axis, the galactic axis, which is going also through the earth axis, is falling 23 degrees to that point where we are today, or some kind of shift program occurred, which make that this old North Pole is lying 30 degrees south from the North Pole that we have today, from new North Pole. So that new situation created automatically a new norm, because the connection between, let's say, the brain or the head, which in a family structure resided at the North Pole, and the whole rest of the ball is the consequence of the children making program that went out from those people. The Einstein make that we get like a separation between this area of the people in the north and the people living in the tropics, because the whole northern part of the ball become covered with ice, like the southern part of the ball. And that make that we get a new north, but also a new normal for the people within the ice, who live there in the ice and who become this, what we call today the Caucasian looking people. They could continue their norm from before, because they happen to have the characters who are responsible for the procreation of the human being sitting up there. But now they could not have contact to those outside. So in the tropical world, the norm changed. Yeah, in the Arctical world, or in this world up there, from before ice time, you have the first son in the family who is the king, and the first daughter in the family who is the queen. And you have then the 10 brothers of the king up to the 12th son who become the children maker. So now, okay, they didn't need anymore this 10 brother in between. So they, under the ice time, reduced to 7 son and 7 daughter. But now it's not the 7th son who is making the children. It's the, if I remember well, it's the 2nd son. And the other 5 are like assisting. Now, outside, in the tropical world, you get that there is the first son of the king become the crown prince and become king when the king dies. And so there the first son, he is representing the function of king, but also of children maker, which was not existing in the original heathen system, that they will continue basically up there within the ice in the north. Now then we have that kind of status quo system going on till after ice time. So when ice time on the land start to finish, according to the position of the planet, we are still in ice time, because it is this situation of the Earth axis falling over that created the how you call that,
Tilt.
yeah, the tilt create the possibility for ice to appear on the planet on low level. Yeah, if you go 5, 6, 7 kilometer up, you can have ice up there. It's pretty fresh. The air gets thinner. So we could have had probably ice on the mountain, also in the paradise time. But that we get this kind of massive ice field covering like total continents is something what can only occur when the Earth axis come in this position where you are 6 months turned away from the sun, and the other 6 months, the southern part of the bowl is turned away from the sun. So this position we still have today. So people are speculating about coming ice age or going ice age or whatever. The fact is that Middle Europe 50,000 years ago was still covered under 1.5 kilometers of ice. Now, Scandinavia had that 10,000 years ago. So the ice has been receding from the Alps and the Pyrenees towards the north, and it has all the time been receding. And I've seen in my life how it's been receding in Scandinavia, so that also up in Finland, they don't have any more winters like they had in the 1970s. So we see that there is all the time a receding program of ice going on. Ice is melting, which is 100% natural happening within the time frame that Bock Saga describes. The ice is supposed to come to an end because the nature is preparing for us to again in the future have the possibility to live the life of the nature where the earth and everything around it is in balance in relation to the sun, so that we could create the paradise by ourselves. Not anymore based on the rules and regulations of this human being life coming into existence, but because we have been going to what they call evolution. I have to smile a little bit when I say this kind of thing, because the evolution has been bringing us to this point where we are today. Yeah, and now it's very comical that during the same time when the whole world is turning into some kind of panic zone, because we are realizing that, oh, ice is melting. Oh, we have a problem. Nature is fucked up because we have been having science creating the scientific world with the norm that become introduced with the Industrial Revolution, 1850s. Yeah, so we see that we have one norm before ice time. We get a new norm in different part of the planet under ice time. Then we get the norm of the after ice time period, which is based on agriculture and animal husbandry. And this is going on until, in Europe anyway, the church arrived in the northern part of the world, where a new information system with new norm become introduced. And we are living that up to this new norm, up to, now what shall we say, Renaissance, a little bit later, where we start to question a little bit this information system from the church. And we find out by the 17th, 18th century that maybe we should slowly stop to throw people on the fire because we give them some kind of stamp, which means that better we throw them on the fire. These ladies who went to pick leaf in the forest and making concurrence to the, how you call it, the selling of pill and powder from the medical world that become
Pharmakia.
that become institutionalized after heathendom, when the lady become forbidden to take the mahla, which is in the different plant and leaves of the trees, to be able to look after the health of their men and themselves. Now they start to make pill and powder from that, and the only place where you could do that was within monastery, and you start some kind of business program of the selling and buying of medicine, where before all lady had access to the nature in order to keep us in order, Now, then we get a new norm. Yeah, and that norm is going on. We get then the norm 1850s, 1830s, depending on where you live, of the industrial scientific based world, which is a new norm. And all the time we call all this movement of norm, we call it progress and evolution. But now, just now, we seem to have a problem. We seem to have a problem with the medicine. We seem to have a problem with the climate. We seem to have a problem with industrial waste. We seem to have a problem with pollution. We don't know where the fuck to go with our atomic waste. We don't know where to go with our biological warfare. And you can go on for hours like this, which is basically the story of my generation. I'm from 10 years after the Second World War, and I think that I have been living the more free life that you could ever live in the history of the human being. When one normal bloke like me from one normal family in Europe, you get a passport and you go and work a couple of months in the steel factory, you collect some money and you can go and visit anywhere on the planet and go to see how other people are living within their norms. Yeah. So if you go from the perspective of Box Saga, to be normal is quite horrible, because it has been degrading the life of the people to the extent where they even today are telling us that if you smoke, actually you are a murderer, because you are poisoning the people around you. And this same nutcake who says such a thing don't give a shit for standing 3 hours on the Santa Monica highway in the queue, or from Amsterdam to Rotterdam in the 100-kilometer queue every morning on the way to the job, and fucking aeroplanes flying over you and exhaust fumes from steelworks left, right, and center, But when I smoke my cigarette, or when I smoke my joint, or when I smoke anything, you are a criminal, and actually you should be extradited from the fucking planet. No?
Oh yeah, I saw a great picture the other day of there's 15 big jets sitting all together on a runway, and every one of them were owned by a bunch of corporations all getting together to talk about climate.
Yeah. They were parked in Glasgow or somewhere.
Yeah, I heard about that too.
Yeah. It has been it was today given out in a Dutch newspaper that it was the most polluting top in the history of the human being.
But this is what Yake and I have talked about a lot, like about how like that's the game. It's that inversion. It's how it's like a mechanism of some kind.
Everything is backwards.
Yeah.
So if we talk about normal, and we see that if the normal started here, and we have been moving in time for one particular period, and now our normal is there. So it is 180-degree opposite of the norm we started with. Then we are in really big shit.
Yeah, it's more of a devolution than
of course,
evolution.
It is, of course.
Everything is 180 degrees flip.
Yes. So we have been having status quo in the paradise time, before ice time. Yeah, and there I want to jump in to make a little clarification for you, or at least a possibility to think in a different way.
Please.
Because they talk about evolution. So if we have been going to that side where we now find ourselves as one global family into big shit, into really implicit shit, no? We really have a problem, no? Because we are many people and we feel that everybody deserves a good life, But that means the only way to create one decent life for all human beings on this planet is that we are following the powers of nature and the natural law in order to exist in such a way that we can have an harmonious existence together with all the different grasses, the different trees, the different birds, the different animals, the different insects, the different microbes. All of them exist. Everything exists and has a reason to exist. And we are the only one who can talk about it and be the guardians of it. Yeah, so our role was basically in the title of what the Aser say about their own area when they talk about Asgard, the garden of the Aser, the garden of Uden.
Asgard, okay.
Asgard,
Wow.
the garden of
Uden.
Uden. We are the guardians, but we are also so we are the caretakers. We take care. Yeah. And to take care, you can only do when you look somebody in the eye, because you can't take care of that what you don't know about.
No.
No, then we can. I just go on a little bit with my monologue.
I thought Andy was gonna say something.
No, by all means, someone else jump in.
Hey guys, really, you can always say, "Hey, now you shut up," and I jump in.
Oh no!
Because otherwise, no chance.
It's fantastic listening.
This is awesome. I'm just thinking, it's so funny, those big corporations like Siemens, for example. Then you have this fine type care for life or something they say. It's always this what you are talking about, but they at the same time they had factories in the concentration camps in Germany in the 40 during the Hitler era. So so I mean, it's so
and then
everything is backwards. So.
And then look what's going on now in the world, and they're calling that the new normal.
Yeah, they are talking about this too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, if they talk about new normal, let's base it a little bit on the history so that we can be maybe part of creating some kind of new normal for them, which is based on the understanding of older norms from the past. Yeah. Another understanding. Yeah. And another understanding is something where Bock Saga can do a great thing, because Bock Saga is destroying all taboo that exist. All. All. There is not one taboo on this planet which will not be destroyed by this concept of Bock Saga. And it's not me doing it or anybody else doing it. It is our language, when we start to investigate, that will destroy all the norm that exists. Yeah, and there is the beauty of Bock Saga, because we are all human beings, we are all normal. Yeah, I mean, we don't like to be normal, but we can't do nothing for the fact that we are normal. I am more normal than anybody you can meet in your life. Yeah, maybe the neighbors don't agree, but okay. I also been born in one family. I have also sister. I have also one papa and one mama. I also been to school. I also eat with knife and fork and spoon and finger, depending in which culture I am. So I can adapt my norm in many different places because I lived in 5 different continents. So for me, kind of easy to move around in different styles. It's no problem to sit on the floor or to sit in one chair or to climb in the tree or dig one hole in the ground. So all these different norms have been passing in your life, and it makes that you can act your norm in different places. There where their norm, you have always to adapt to the norm of the area where you live. Otherwise, you are in conflict with your surrounding. And I don't like conflict. I'm a pacifist. I don't want to have conflict. So
Same here.
if they ask me to take my shoes off when I come in their temple, of course I take my shoes off. It's not something I have to discuss. It's something I follow automatic. Yeah. And also when sometimes they ask things from you which you think that hey, now I had it, like now they start to touch my taboos and my borders. But okay, if the people are friendly and they mean well, so you give them a chance also, why not?
Mm.
But yeah, to go to before Einstein, because we are talking about you throw the word evolution. And the concept of evolution is is a bit the one going from primitive to very intelligent. Now, if we see that the intelligence of the last 200 years um, has been according to the norm, intelligent from a scientific perspective. Yeah, because if it's not scientific, it can't be intelligent. Yeah, because then it belongs to a belief system or a misunderstood system or whatever. Um, so we superior people of the beginning of the 21st century, uh, in the school you learn that we never been as intelligent as today. Yeah, but it's the same people who make that we are living under the umbrella of atomic bombs, nuclear power plants, plastic fantastic, uh, inedible food, slaughterhouse 5 over the whole planet, because every cow has to be transferred into a McDonald's hamburger or whatever. So we are living in one system where the respect for that what is nature has totally gone. And we call it intelligent because we have been optimizing the production processes. So it costs as little as possible to have as much advantage to all segments of life. Now, I would disagree with that form of intelligence because it is purely egotistic. It is only looking at yourself and your form of life and your thing, and I'm so fantastic and I'm doing so great. And in the same time, you accept the suffering of 80-90% of the people on the planet who have no chance, because the land is bought from under their asses and the trees that grow on their land are sold from under their asses and their water is being polluted. And, it's the same old story. Uh, yeah, destruction totally, and the profit for us. Yeah, so it's something what became norm with the start of colonialization on this planet. Yeah, so the colonialization made that you could create a system where you made shopping for nothing and you sold your product for the highest price somewhere else on the planet. Yeah, and that is the basis of our economic system of today. Now, in the same time, we learn from the religion that you uh, you have to be friendly to your neighbor and you have to give respect to this and blah, 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 blah. Now, with all those words, we can all agree. Everybody can agree with the principles that religions put out of how to relate to your neighbor, you know. But then if you see that in the same time, we are selling our grandparents, grandmothers, neighbors. We sell everything because everything is for sale, you know, because, yeah, money talks and bullshit walks, no? Yeah. And yeah, we are more of the bullshitting department. Yeah,
You
because
I'm sorry, cut it.
sorry.
We were talking about money, and we're kind of talking about it now, and how this whole perversion has happened to the concept of economy. And I think it was Jim Chesner made a video one time talking about a more ancient, and maybe it was derived from Box Saga, a money system that where like the coins were passed out to the people. It went around to keep the flow going, but then all the coins were turned in at the end of the year, and then new coins were passed out. It wasn't that the coins were passed in for the king to collect wealth. It was just that those old coins were now like collectibles or something, but they didn't go into circulation. And it was like just almost like an energy flow system.
Yes.
Rather, what was he referring to? Was that Bock?
I think
Like
I
was
think
that from the ice time?
no, I think he refers to the feudal time. So that is the
Okay.
period that ends with the industrialization. And yeah, I think we can say like that. It's like in the 18th century, we had still in the countryside, the people didn't have money because they did not need money. So if you go to this Box Saga 5 caste system, what we had, yeah, we have Pirouet, Roes et, Jaal et, Kaal et, Trail et. Uh, let's say in 1500, we still have this 1400, 1500, we have this kind of 5 caste system still existing. Later on, it became this 2 caste within the town and 3 on the countryside. Now, if we go to this countryside, you have this guy uh, who is landowner by order of the king to take care of all people living on his land. So he has these 2 lowest castes under him. Yeah. So now this landowner or this earl, I think you would call him earl in English, you know, this guy, he has one piece of property, huge piece of property. He's appointed there by the king. The minute he is not treating the people on his land, on that land, well, he become kicked out by the king and king put somebody else there. Now, this guy, he is instrumental as a connecting person to the people living on the land and the people living in the town. So in the town, you have the burger and the handicraft people. And now the handicraft people, they can make the pots and the pans and all the different things what you need for your daily life, which you could not make in the countryside, because in the countryside you have the fields where you grow the food. Now the town doesn't grow food because the town is the town. It is outside of the town. You can grow the food, but then you live on the land and you belong to this other caste of people. So now this landowner or this land caretaker, in by order of the king, he make overproduction on his land because the people on his land, the lowest caste, they are producing for themselves, only for themselves. So they are self-employed. They are, yeah, how do you call this today?
Yeah.
Self-employed.
Okay,
Yeah.
self-employed. They look after their own shit, no? And they grow. They could take as much wood as they need from the forest to build their house and have their fire. They could have a cow. They could have pig. They could have sheep. And they didn't have to pay tax. They just live out in the nature, taking care of themselves, and they could use the nature and some animal by which they could give a certain quality to their life. Wool from the sheep to make food, milk from the cow to make butter, and so on and so on. Now, this second this second caste from the bottom, they do the same thing. They look also after themselves, but now from every family, one person is working 13 day on the land of the landowner, of the earl. Yeah, so every family, one man has to be put forward, and he can go to work on the land of the landowner in order to, on his land, make overproduction that they bring to the town. So he sell that for coin to the town, and now with that coin that he get from this handicraft burger people in the town, he have to provide all the people on his land. Yeah, so from himself plus these two castes below, he has to provide them with everything what these people can't make on their land. So if they can't make salt, he has to bring salt for those coins. And he has to bring pepper, and he has to bring glass, and he has to bring pots and pans, and uh, everything what the people can't make by themselves on the countryside. So now, in the end of the year, the tax collector of the king is going around everywhere, and he collect all coin. And they go back in the treasury. And now on the 1st of January, the system start again. So you use this money without money value. It is
Right.
only one means of exchange in order to be able that everybody is provided with everything what they need. Now, if you then start to make that into that system what we have today, since 250 years, yeah, there some people start to be in the collecting system because the taxman doesn't come by them to collect everything. They come only by the assholes who are the small people
Oh.
in the countryside to collect.
Yeah.
So that's today legal. Yeah, that's legal.
Oh my
So
God.
basically, because this is belonging to the system of before, which we call the feudal system, out of this feudal system, because we have a history which is based on a pyramidal structure of society, the parliamentary democracy or any parliamentary system that we start to get after 1850 is still based on the fact that we have always been living in one pyramidal system. And now that pyramidal system in the top is this little triangle which lifts off from the pyramid, and there is this eye where all these coins are floating. Yeah. It's in the symbolic of the eye.
The author, it's so symbolical with the
Of course, it is very,
yeah.
yeah, it's super symbolic. No?
Yeah.
Dan,
But-
Dan and I
but,
had a long. Oh, go ahead, Yake.
No, I was gonna mention this first Vasa king they called the Husbondekungen. You know, the Husbonde you are referring to. He's like very interesting detail because he was like caretaker for all people through this system you are explaining. With it's just interesting that he's also called Husbondekungen
Yeah.
in the history book.
Husbonde is the Husbonde. He is like the farmer house. The Bunde is like the farmer, and the Hus is the house. But the Husbonde, it sounds very close to what we have today, the husband.
Yes.
Yeah. So the Husbonde become the husband, the one who provide for everything, you know.
Yes.
But now it's one person. And before you have 10 sons and 12 daughters and your brothers and your aunties and you all work all together as one family, and you take care of that land, and in the same time you take care of each other. And in this fantastic system, what we have today, we become lone rangers, each fighting for ourselves to keep our head afloat within the system.
And wolf packs, of
No,
course.
the individualism, which comes out of the neoliberalism, no? Yeah, which is, of course, the most fantastic system that we ever had, although it's falling to pieces right in front of our nose right now. So it is all based on concepts that belong to the past. So all what is existing on this planet are belonging to concepts from the past. And now, because we have no past, our existence of today, which is limited to 5,000 years of written history, because according to science, it must be written for it to be true. Yeah. If it's
Yes.
not written, it means, we can't prove it, so it's not scientific, so it can't be. Yeah. But how can you make a future when you have no idea of history and you base it on 5,000 years of concepts depending on the norm of the individual?
Yeah, that we just call his story.
Yeah, it is his story, and we are dying within his story now, because that is only his story. Which story? Story of yeah.
And it's so conflicted with all the different kind of
With
alternative.
reality. You can't make a future, you can't build a future. So you can see also the panic in all layers of society. It's not only the people who is afraid of the economic collapse or of the natural world collapse or the dying out of the lion or the tiger or whatever is dying out. And they're trying to save all the whale, but there's nobody who is saving the people. Nobody saved the people. Everything else becomes saved. Every plant, every tree, every insect, every frog, everything can become saved if you create some kind of. But for the people, we have no clue because we have no history. So we have no idea because all our life is experimental. 100% experimental. And we see it because the norm periods become shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter. Yeah, from I don't know how many million years before ice time to 50 million under ice time to 10,000 years after ice time to 1,000 years ago introduction of Christianity to 200 years by us anyway, Yeah, it can be something else in other part of the world, and up to then to 200-year industrialization, and now 30-year, 40-year of neoliberalism, and now we are in the end. Yeah, because nobody know what to do. The only thing we can do is put some guy who have the money for it, put him in a rocket and send him to outer space, have a look outside and make them fantasize about planet B. Yeah, but there is no planet
Seems
B.
to be a lot about that right now.
Yeah, it's wishful thinking.
It's just more of the dehumanization thing. It includes the earth. Like, oh, well, let's just leave that behind too. Along with our bodies eventually, but that's an entirely different conversation.
Of course.
But Dan and I had a very long phone conversation last night. We came to a lot of interesting points, and we kept talking about how linguistically, when we get into this stuff, you follow it through history, you start to see that everything we consider good or evil is not only inverted, but it's all just blended and mixed and forgotten. It almost leaves us with like a lot of people who are desperately kind of overall looking for a big bad guy or cause to all the suffering. We really, it doesn't seem like we can point to anybody because it seems like it's all just human loss of memory and confusion. What would you say?
Translations and translations and translations, and it
it takes the guts out of conspiracy theory.
Yeah, it's just a mess to try to discover something in the old text also, because like the mind at that time is so different from now, so the translations will anyway be a little bit from today's mind. I mean,
there is a very good point. Like for us to look at history, we are starting with ourselves, with our norm, and now we go to look backward with our norm, judging the past.
Exactly like that.
In that way, we can never find out anything. And now Bock Saga is the most brilliant thing because it starts with the birth of the first human being on the planet, or even before that, it starts with how this planet become, is what this story starts with. How come this ball? And it describes how this ball come, how this ball was like one egg floating in the universe, like a sun, like a small sun that exploded, and out of that explosion, the plasma, which is the interior of the sun, transform in the explosion into magma, and the magma is cooling off, and the atmosphere is created around this magma ball in the explosion of this small sun. So the Bock Saga tells that before we had two suns, one big one and one small one, and we can find that out from the name of the 7 islands, which are called the Sun Islands, that are right in front of the coast of Helsinki. And if you go in the original names of this, you will find out the whole system of why we have this Earth and this meridional division of the planet, and how we get our clock, and how we everything based on ring and pole is rolling out from one point where you are a three-dimensional being. You are standing on the North Pole. When you are standing on the North Pole, you can only go south. There is no east and west. There is only south when you are on the North Pole. Everywhere you go south. But
Right.
now, in order to make a division for the people who don't live in the North Pole, you make east and west. So you make West Sun Island, and you make East Sun Island, and you make Big Sun Island, and you make Small Sun. And there's all these names in these islands where you can see some kind of 3D perspective of the whole space you're in it. And when you look up, the North Star is right on above your head when you are at the North Pole. When you stand in the North Pole, the North Star is right above your head. So you can start to think in one way of ring and pole, and that's what comes out of the pole, which is the North Star. Now, if you, with pole, the word pole, it's come from an anatomic part of our body. And that is that moment when this little worm, what is hanging there cold when it's coming out of the water, it's a wrinkly little worm. And now this makes one pole stand. It means that it's standing up. Yeah, it's standing. And now on top of your pole, there is one hole, which is like one eye. Yeah, so the human being have two eyes on his upper head, but on the down head we have also one eye called
Cyclops.
the third eye, Cyclops, the third eye. So the third eye, it's not here. That's only symbolic. They put it here. The third eye is there where the sperm come from, which is your your thought pole and your thinking pole.
Oh man.
Pole. Yeah. So it is from the sperm that we become into life as human beings. So we are all born from the third eye, and our thinking and talking capacity is also coming from that same stuff.
Yeah,
So,
because it's the origin of us, so it has to.
of course. So that is the reason why they from 7-year-old learn, these boys and these girls, they go to one school called parental school or family school, where you become educated on how to use your equipment. That's the first thing you learn when you go to school, is how to take care of your equipment, your sexual equipment. Yeah, because by us, this is under the blanket, covered with clothes, covered with shame, covered with everything. But what the fuck is the difference between my prick and my middle finger and my nose and my ear and the hair? And there is no difference. It's just a different part of my body. But it is covered with shame and perversion through the information system of that what has been visiting our planet in the last couple of thousand years. And you can see how further they are away from their openness and their acceptance of their body, the more perverted they are in their upstairs head.
Well, so
excuse me, I
just
didn't
real
want to-
quick,
I
an
didn't
interesting point on this is that, like, you know, in our alternative news kind of community, we're often finding like terrifying stories of textbooks now teaching this exact thing to younger children, and we're all scared. I mean, I'm a parent. It's freaky, and it's like
Of course
from
it
a
is.
modern eye that we've been ingrained in. Of course, it's such a touchy subject. I think I brought it up in our first episode. It's like we
Yeah.
can't get around
Yeah,
talking about it, though.
It's
You know,
so
it's
taboo.
it's like, yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't want to insult anybody with this. I don't want to
No.
criticize anybody. It is just one form of speech in order to make one point that if we are not willing to accept that every part of our body has a meaning, because our language is formed around the naming of the parts of this particular parts of the male and the female, in order to go out in the world with open eyes. Yeah, and because if we are going out from the fact that from the beginning we were all brother and sister and cousins and nieces and whatever we are, it's all in the family. So what is there to be ashamed of?
Yeah.
It is just the separation between human being, what has been creating this kind of thing. Maybe sometime I'm a little bit of a loudmouth saying what I think when I maybe shouldn't.
But it's so true. I'm thinking
No,
like
yeah.
within the family, go into the sauna all naked.
Correct.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So
That's it. You have this fantastic thing only in Scandinavia and Russia, in the northern part of the world, is the only place where the people on the planet are used to see each other naked, and everybody in the family. You meet naked in the sauna.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Now today you must have swimming trousers on, and because if they see you naked. In Finland, 30 years ago, it was forbidden to have any piece of cloth material in the sauna. 30, 40 years ago. And from 40 years ago, again, from the middle of the 80s, this started to change. Because the boys, the mothers tell to the boys that you have to put on swimming trousers when you go in the sauna, because this mother has been divorced from her husband, and now she wants to protect her son for all these people, all this Hindi who is in the sauna, who you have to be afraid for all these men who is looking to your dick because they probably want something from you. This totally perverted way of thinking, which has also reached Scandinavia and Russia, just now. Where
It
before
seems to be
it
all
was,
over the place.
yeah, it's all over the world. It's
Yeah.
all over the world, That is why we had so nice time in Goa in the 1970s and 80s, 60s, 70s, 80s, when you could be naked. It was the only place outside of Russia and Finland where you could be naked on the beach without to have any shame feeling or anything. So for me, I was 19 when I come there in this place, and I find one place where you could be bare-assed on the beach, and also the local was walking around still naked. Okay, if you go in the village, in the bar.
Bar.
When you go in the village, of course, you put one lungi around when you go in the tea house, in order not to shock the girls in the village because you have this big ball, which is of course like, yeah. I mean, we are not cows or bulls, I mean, we are just human beings, and we have different size, small size, big size, medium size, any form, doesn't matter. The interesting thing is that all these different size and form have name in the root language.
Yeah.
So they are telling us something, because these names consist of sound, and these sounds have a meaning. Yeah.
Yeah.
What is is there a significance to the sauna more so than just loosening up your muscles in the cold climate? Is there more of a spiritual thing to it, or is there
Yes.
other metaphysical things to it? And can you explain those
Yes,
ones?
I can. The word sauna is from before ice time. But now before ice time, we have another type. We have two types of sauna. Because sauna consists of sa, u, na. Sa, u, na. Sa, now in the Finnish language, you have one concept called sauna not, which in Finnish is sauna solmu. Sauna solmu.
So,
Now, sauna solmu means that you can put your knees behind your shoulder and your feet in your
Jesus
neck,
Christ.
and then you are making one yoga asana position with your
Ah,
feet in your neck. And when you can relax, you can, if you have good feeling, make your equipment to stand, and then you can suck yourself.
shock yourself.
You can suck from yourself.
Oh,
You,
suck.
Success.
succeed.
sakra,
Succeed.
sakra,
Sakura.
Sakura.
sakra. So you are opening your sakra,
You're opening your sakra.
Holy
Holy shit.
and now you can make.
Oh
Now
my
you
God.
can. Now you can go with your tongue around your acorn, around your acorn, no, in root language, and you can drink from yourself. Now this
Your
is an
acorn, your pine cone.
correct.
The
The acorn.
acorn.
Yeah?
It looks like the
Acorn, acorn, acorn.
oak seed.
The
Oak
oak,
seed.
the oak
Oh,
seed.
It looks exactly like
I got
the
it.
forehead. So
The
that's
oak seed is the smooth part on the top, and then comes the skin part, which you can take up and down. Yeah, and that gives good feeling because the ring of your helmet is the most sensitive part of the body by the man, and it's the same with the clitoris in the ladies department. So this is why we call this part of our body the heart,
Right.
and this part here, this we call pump. So with religion, they have transferred our heart, which is the most sensitive part of our body, to that part, which is the pump, which is pumping the blood around in your body. Now, to go back a little bit to the sauna solmu position, is something that you start to learn. The mamas educate the boys when they are 7 years old to make this yoga position, because when you are 7 years old, you are like one rubber ball and you can do it. And now you do it every day because there is nothing more pleasurable for any boy that he can put himself in this position and suck himself off. The goal is, of course, to come to an orgasm so that sperm comes out and you drink it, and now you circulate it within your body, because now the sperm goes in your stomach, and in the stomach it becomes broken down and comes in the blood system of the body, and now the pump is pumping the blood to every cell of the body, also the brain cell. So now the sperm, via the blood, this vulgia, which is within the sperm, and the R, which is within the sperm, this Ra, is coming into contact with all the cellular structure of your body, and there it is reinforcing the cellular structure, because every cell has information, and because this information is based on that sperm that goes into one egg with the conception, and now the sperm starts to eat the starts to eat the egg, and the cell division starts, and we become either one boy or one girl. Now, through this practice, by the boy, the sperm, and by the girl from her juice, from the sap, they are reconnecting every cell of the body with its original information. And that make the cell to work 100% to its optimum. And this we call the immune system. But the immune is when you put your E or your I, yeah, your E in root, I in English. This E is your symbol for the pole. And now when you put it in your moon, because this is your moon in the root language, your mouth, so your immune system is based on putting the E in your moon so that sperm goes around via the blood, pumped around by the pump, and in that way reinvigorating your cellular structure so that you are completely independent from the whole nature around you.
You just can't make this stuff up.
No, you can't make it up, no. So now this
Like
sperm,
how do you make stuff up like that? Like
this the sperm is coming from the third eye. Yeah, and you can open your third eye, they say, and everything will be okay, isn't it? According to the textbooks.
yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So the men have the third eye and the lady have their third eye, and their third eye works on a different I don't know. We can say that the masculine brain, it runs on diesel, and that one of the ladies on benzene. It's like the difference between the sperm and the magla. It both contains this Ra element, yeah, which is this Fulgia element is for procreation, but this Ra element is for talking, thinking, talking, Paul.
Okay, Sarah.
Yes, que sera. You are well, fantastic, great. Fantastic.
Hey, just switching gears a bit, I had a question that I think I brought up in our first episode, or maybe off the air with these guys. But so it's in my brain, who's just trying to get used to all of this information still. I'm finding that, what is it? Is it that the term Lemminkainen is part of Finnish mythology, like already without Bock Saga? Am I misunderstanding that? Because I've seen Lemminkainen,
correct,
beautiful paintings and this and that.
Yes.
So can we kind of explain that a little bit for people, especially people that know even less than I do? Let's give some structure to this a little bit.
Yeah, please. Michel is good with
I
this.
wonder if I should finish the Sauna Solmu program.
Oh, sure. Let's do that first. Glad I got that out because I would have
We
forgotten.
do that. It's just a little story still, because we have now
Sure.
we have the sauna as the concept of sauna as one building with hot water and you can sweat there. But sauna solmu, the sauna knot, is that position where you can drink from yourself, this yogic exercise. The whole reason why people make yoga is to learn this particular asana. But it's very easy to do when you are 7-year-old and you can put yourself in that position because you are still rubbery. Now the word sa means you get. U means uden. And na means asarna's knowledge. N stands for the North Star. The sound N is Noordstjernan, the North Star, but it's the symbol for knowledge, all knowledge. So sa u na, sul mus, means that when you put yourself in this position of sauna solmus, that you get from Uden the knowledge of Aser. which is a large concept, the knowledge of us.
Yeah.
It's a very large concept. So it has to do with knowledge about all. So that is that the word sauna is coming from this knot, because your blood circulation is going up. You need to have good blood circulation to get blood in all the part of the body. Now the position is helping there, and of course also the heat of one sauna building. The sauna building is different from the sauna knot. The sauna knot is personal. The sauna building is one community place for washing and for other practices. We won't go into it now straight away, because otherwise it starts to get a little bit too much maybe in this moment. But the word itself, sauna, it has to do with, not with that building, but with drinking from yourself, of offering from yourself to yourself. That's the first step in the sexual education of the boys and girls in the Heathen time, is to offer from yourself to yourself. Now, you can't hurt anybody with that. Yeah?
No.
It's your private business. Yeah.
Sure.
Then we come to the concept of this Lemminkainen. Lemminkainen, there's many different names which you will find in the Bock Saga. And before I hear about Bock Saga 1984, I had the pleasure of visiting Finland already over a period of 9 years. So I also come in different building and museum where I become confronted with painting that are made in the period of the end of the 19th century, beginning of 20th century, by different artists and people from Finland. And I become confronted with the biggest epos that exists on the planet, which is the Kalevala, which is a collection of poems collected by one guy called Elias Lönnrot in the 1830s. So he was going around the forest of Finland and Russia and collecting those stories that were living as oral traditions within the people of the Finnish people living in the forest. So that's mostly the people outside of Uudenmaa. Uudenmaa is this southern province, this ringland, but there you have many other ringland around in Finland, direction Russia. Now, or provinces, we call them today. Now, under all these people, he collect poems, and there the main characters are Ukko Väinämöinen, Seppo Ilmarinen, and Pukki Lemminkainen. So, and there is Maya, and there is Joutsen, and there is Sampo, and there is Aino, and they have all kind of weird associations within this epos, which is made up of all these collected stories that were still existing in the Finnish forest in the 19th century. Now, because this guy made this book with the names of this character, but with one quite centurized version of presenting those forest stories, because it had to fit in the 19th century, still within the norm and realm of the Catholic way of thinking, or the Christian way of thinking, because you couldn't publish anything negative in relation to the church in the 19th century, because they still had the power of censorship in the 19th century. It's first the 20th century where they lost this. So they make this Maya to be a little bit like Maria, and in this way they the stories kind of fit in the beginning 20th century brain of the people. Now, of
It's
course,
like Tolkien also.
Yes, same thing, Tolkien. Tolkien. And Tolkien, it's one village in east from Uudenmaa, no? Tolkien. Yeah, and these people.
But he was interested in those stories, right?
He was absolutely fascinated with Finnish folklore.
Or did they have access to the archive, perhaps?
I think that he even his family originate from Tolkien, and they in the third Ragnarök 1050. Many people, many of the Aser or the people who had to do with them, they swam out to the islands because these Middle European soldiers, they couldn't swim. So they swam out to the islands and they hide there and they become collected 1061 by the Danish Viking and become transported by the Danish. They collect all these people who had escaped 1050 to the islands or after 1050, and they use them as rowers in the Battle of Hastings. And those that survived, they could start with their family name coming from their village if they could remember it, and continue their life in England and get some kind, and 600 years later on, he's writing book about. But he comes from that area. Otherwise, he wouldn't have that inspiration. You don't get it if you have no connection.
No, that's true.
Yeah. So Tolkien, I think he comes from Tolkien and his family, not him
Everyone
personally.
is from Finland.
Everybody comes from Sampo Spur. Everybody born
Seems to
from
be the
Sampo
case.
Spur. This is the joke of the finish of the Bock Saga, that we are all born from Sampo Spur, except Jesus,
Jesus.
according to the information system.
Yeah, but Jesus, he didn't have any father, so.
Now, he was visited by the Holy Spirit. But
Yeah.
I don't know, come on. I'm just joking, of course,
Yeah,
a little
yeah.
bit.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, a little
Yes,
joke must be possible. In Holland, we are quite free to talk about this kind of thing because they don't cut
Yeah.
off your head straight away when you say
No.
something jokey about Jesus. But anyway, if you look at these figures of Weinemönen and Seppo Ilmarinen, Pukki Lemminkäinen, Joodsen, Suometar, Sampo, Aino, they are the literal Finnish translations of the characters which in the root mythology we talk about Solbok and Balder, Moonbok and Balder, Swan, Swan, Gumma, Gubben, Balgubben, Per, Balgumman, Ella. They are one-and-one translations, or not translations, but the same concept, just in a different language. And it's very interesting when you go in these names. Now, without this guy, Elias Lönnrot, who has been collecting all these poems from the forest, by the middle of the 20th century, nobody would know that even Weinemönen, Ilmarinen, Lemminkäinen would exist. Because it's just because of him putting them in a book, which is called Kalevala, which is the very famous Finnish epos. It's just a bastardization of the epos of Bock Saga of the Heathen time. Yeah.
But didn't it have to do with some kind of with the creation of Finland also, that they wanted to, when it's separated from Sweden, I think
of course it gave them, but it's just later. No, you're right. It's 1809 that Finland became part of Russia. So
Russia, yeah.
up from 1250 or from 1050 to 1809, Finland is part of Sweden, and from 1809 to 1917, it's part of Russia. And Lenin made them to be independent because there was too much a pain in their ass for the system that he wanted to create in this Petersburg Moscow program.
They didn't like the Finnish, I heard.
No, they liked them. I mean, the Finnish was highly respected, but the Finnish had been living 700 years with Swedish law. So you could never put this kind of Tsarist law on these Finnish people, because you would not get support from the, let's say, higher caste people in Finland, who you need to run in a bureaucratic way one country. So you must always be friend with the people, which in Sweden was very easy, because the Swedish and the root is practically the same. The root have not the accent of the Swedish, because the Swedish are singing the root. So in Finnish, we call the Swedish language the root singkieli. because they sing the root, where the
Boxing.
root is just root. Root is like Dutch, you speak on one tone, kind of, it's not like like you can hear in the English, the Welsh
Yeah.
people, they also sing. So you see that the Welsh have some origin with the Swedish people because they also are talking a little bit in this funny way of going up and down with the leg, If you listen to Welsh people, you can find this kind of nuance. Yeah.
Wow.
Many the dialects, yeah. So
Yeah.
very
So that is funny, but the root is, for me, very easy because it's very close to Dutch also.
But it's
So
so
for
clear
me,
when you speak like that.
yeah,
You
very
don't need
clear.
to. You don't need to use so much words to say
No.
anything.
No, you can say almost every. Me with my small word vocabulary, I can understand or speak with them easily. Yeah, I mean, I'm not native from there, but for me to speak with them after a couple of years was already easy. Just
Yeah.
listening, and find out that okay, and then you can read also the Swedish. Or,
But then you go to Stockholm and you don't understand jack shit.
and then I don't understand. Yeah, I don't understand it because they speak so funny. They have so funny
Yeah.
pronunciation. It's like the English. They change in the
Yeah, they
sound.
twist. Like
Yeah.
we say räv for fox, but down in Stockholm they say rev. They put an e instead of ä.
Yeah, it's rev.
Yeah.
It's rev. It's rev in Österbotten, in the Finnish side, in the northeast.
Yeah, we say also
northwest.
räv.
Rev. But you can also have rev because you have reval. Reval on the Estonian
Yeah,
side.
reval. Yeah, reval, like enemy or the
Revival.
Yeah,
I was thinking
the guy who competes with you on the exact same level, like that. Yeah,
Seems
like
to be
rival.
Yeah, rival. Yeah.
Rivalry. Rivalry. Rivalry.
Wow, man.
You
I
choose
really
again.
love how you can get so many stories just from one word.
Yeah,
So
it's
fascinating.
It's sometimes it's too much then. I really.
One word that we seem to talk about a lot is the word Nephilim.
Yeah.
The Nephilim. What do you make of that?
Nephilim or Nephilhim. And we always wonder if there's like a connection between the two words. Seems to be because of the giants or the ice giants. It's the same. So I was wondering if there's any like Bock meaning behind.
Yeah, you mean the Nephilim?
Well, you have the
okay,
Nephilim, the place.
Yeah, like in the Scandinavian.
Yeah, and then you have the Nephilim, which is a conspiracy theory hot topic all the time forever,
It's very
they came from star systems.
Yeah, the giants, the fallen angels.
It's very simple. Yeah, the Nephilim, as the people, is the Aser, and or the Gudar and the Gudinnor, the gods and goddesses, who are people. Yeah, they are not abstraction. They are people. So we have Gudar are good. Gudar are good. So the mythology doesn't know God because the saga, because God is that what you got already. Yeah, but Gudar are good. So Gudar is the plural of Gude. Gude. And Gude means you are a good man.
Jeez. Gouda.
Gouda.
Yeah, so the Gudar, the plural of Gudar, the plural of God is Gudar. And Gudar, because they are plural, because they don't exist as singular, you have three Gudar, masculine, and you have three Gudinnor, feminine. Now Gudar are good, and Gudinnor are good in Nor. The same normal concept what we talked about in the beginning of to this evening, no? So they are the good in the north, are the goddesses, the Gudinnor.
Okay.
Yeah, if you in the
this
root
makes
language.
sense for me.
Yes, for his brain, very easy to grasp straight, but it needs little explanation in English.
Yeah, sometimes, yeah.
So Gudar is plural, And Gudinnar is also plural because we have Himmelgudar and Himmelgude and Himmelgudinna, the heavenly god and the heavenly goddess, which is the Ukko and the Akka in the Finnish language, or the Gubbe and the Gumma in the root language. So they are like the grandparents. Then you have vruchtbaarheidsgoede and vruchtbaarheidsgoedinna. Now that is the fertility good and the fertility goddess. And that is Lemminkainen and Joodse, or Balder and Zwaan, as they are called in the root language. Bal there is always pointing to Bal there. That's where your whole construction is called Bal. So that is why the area where this is playing is Baltic. Yeah, the Baltic Sea, or the Baltic. What we have more on Bal? We have Balkan. Yeah, the Balkan. Balkan. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, balcony also, of course. The balcony is the bal of the lady. The balcony. The
Oh,
balkon. The lady have balkon, which become balcony, balkon.
And you go to the ball also?
Yeah, the man have bal. Yeah, bal. You go to have one bal. It's always.
Yes.
This whole part is going to be the ultimate conspiracy theorist trigger because of the word ball as
Yeah, ball.
Yeah, you have the
Baal, like
goddess.
the
Yeah,
Babylonian
but
god that eats kids.
That is what they make of it in the writing system. They put one extra A and then an extra A, and in that way you are moved to the Middle East to Baalbek. Yeah, but Baalbek is I want my ball back.
I thought it might have something to do with ball and buck, ball buck.
Of course, Baalbokkerna. Baalbokkerna are the 12 son of the 12 son are the Baalbokkerna. So the first son is Moonbokkenbalder, Moonbokbalder, and the 12th son is Soelbokkenbalder, the Sunbokbalder. Yeah, so it's Soelen. Yeah, Soel. We write Sol for you, S-O-L, but you pronounce the ring in root language always as U. And many times they have been changing in the word to O, like in Finnish many times. Because in Finnish, in one language, the ring is O, but that same ring in root is U. Yeah, so it's like root, double O, it's U. Like to be or to go, to, it's with double O, it's U.
Suluman is seed in your mouth.
Sul umun, yeah, sun and moon. Moon, sun and moon, but also Suli moon. Yeah, it's with the same thing, ring in the mouth. This is again back to this sauna soluble program.
But this Nephilim story then?
Okay, yes. Nephilim is the people. So the Nephilim are the Gudar. So we have the Himmelgudar, the heavenly gods, the Vruchtbaarheidsgudar, and then we have the Gude and Gudinna. And that is the king and the queen. So they are the love king and the love queen. Because the love, love is L-A-W and is coming from V-A-L, Baal. And Baal means election, like Valhalla. Valhalla is the election hall of the Aser. Because from there, the whole election system of Fulgia, which is breathed in by Lemminkainen, because he is the breather. So he breathes in the air where he is, in Valhalla, where is the concentrated Fulgia through the rotation of the earth. The centrifugal force is bringing the Fulgia from the leaf of the tree back to the North Pole. So today all frigid because North Pole very cold. So Fulgia not so much energy to come down into the people again. But anyway, before ice time, you have this system that he is breathing in Valhalla over the hole, where is one Bock bed where he makes children with the swan, the most healthy and most beauty lady on the planet, and he breathes in air and he breathes out children, breathing in and breathing out,
So
breathing in and breathing out.
so the Nephil part comes from Naval.
It comes also from Naval, but also from we have Nebel, or in German
Oh, naval.
Nebel.
Naval would be knowledge of the
Oh, yeah,
Val.
to choose the knowledge of Aser is
Yes.
Naval.
Oh man.
But we have also Carnaval, or Carneval, and Carnival. There is many different Val in this department, but that is for later on, guys, because otherwise,
That's true.
it
Yeah,
becomes too big.
confusing.
But anyway, you can go. The Nifel can also be that moment when water, what is warmer, is confronted with air that is colder. And then you get the damp coming from the water.
The mist.
And the mist. And that phenomena, that nebula, is very present in the area of the East Sea and the Finnish Gulf, because first of all, the whole area is surrounded by forest, this land, so it already holds an enormous amount of this damp and humidity in the forest. Then you have the not really salty water, because the East Sea is fed by river systems from Sweden, Finland, Estonia, Russia, Poland. So the water is brackish. So you can even grow potato with that water from the East Sea when you throw it on the land of the farmer in Sweden, Finland, Estonia, Russia, and so on. And that make that, because they have tens of thousands of islands. They have this magic coast between Stockholm and Petersburg. There is more than 100,000 islands in front of the coast of Finland, which are granite humps, chocolate belts coming out of the water. Now, if you don't know your way there, and all these islands have also trees on them and things, and if you don't know your way there, and you are coming from Mediterranean, and you want to do some kind of something after you have passed between Denmark and Sweden into this East Sea, and you plan to go up north, it was, first of all, it was forbidden to come there that way, only for the initiated people. And second, you get totally lost, like you get lost in the mist in London in the autumn time, no? And you get the Sherlock Holmes stories with the Nifel, the Nibel, the Nephilim, Nephilim, the home of the nebula.
Yeah. So the Nephil home, the Nephil, damn it.
Nephilim.
The Heim it's like a word for home also.
Yeah. So the Nephil home,
like some slang, I think.
The Nephil Heim.
How you call Nephil? How you call Nebel in English? The mist. How you call it?
Mist.
Yeah, just mist. No other word.
No other word.
I mean, it sounds a lot like nebulous or nebula.
Yes,
so.
that's
fog,
why I use nebulous.
Fog,
correct. Because we have navel in Dutch, we have nebel in German, we have nivel in other dialects. So for us, they are all associations to this misty landscape over the water, where when you go with your boat and you can't see where the bedrock is under the water, yeah, maybe there is only 10 centimeters. You come with your boat, you break your boat, then you are lost, because you never can come back to Egypt or to
a naval vessel.
Yeah, so the Nephilim is the home of the naval home, which is in the north, or the Acer home.
Yeah. Okay. It is they call it also the Hyperborean, how you call it? Hyperborean.
Hyperborea.
Yeah. This story, it has
Yeah.
also this insight.
It has many names, I think.
Yeah,
Yes.
many.
I know that I think it's the Jewish. They have this explanation of hell but they call it Gehenas. I think it's the Jewish, right?
Hellas. Sounds familiar.
But they explain it's like a swampy place also.
Of course it is.
It's very super.
It's Suomi. Suomi means swampland today. No?
Yeah.
The suo is the Finnish word for swamp.
Sewer.
Yeah.
Which is just so I need to connect these dots out loud or else I'm going to forget them forever. In the Sumerian mythology, the place of Enki, who was represented as the serpent, was always these swamplands. And then, Dan, you and I were speaking last night that when we break these words down and then further you break the letters down, we were thinking that S at some point had to stand for serpent or snake or something like that. Maybe even a verb like slither, or are we on to anything there? Do you think?
S is always sulen, and sulen means the sun, and you can split it in two words. Su, this is your su in Finnish language, and leen is what you do with your mouth when you smile in root. So this is leen and su. So su leen means smiling mouth. And there is the archetypical magic that when you ask any small kid to draw one sun, they always do it with the two eyes and the smiling mouth. Where it's the word saying su leen, the sun, means smiling mouth. That's magic, no? That's magic.
That's incredible.
Yeah, and that magic you can go on all the time. Like suo is the swamp, which you call swamp. But swamp is also another word for mushroom. Swamp. So in Middle Europe, swampen in German language, in many languages, Dutch, Swedish, it means the mushroom.
Drinking swamp water.
What form has one mushroom? And what you do when in Finnish language, it's suo. Suo means the swamp because the name for Finland is Suomi. Suomi. That means su. The o is that which comes out of your mushroom, your swamp, your Suomi. Is actually telling you to drink from yourself. The name.
Thousand circles, man.
In the same time, it is the swamp, it is the mushroom, the much-room. From the much-room, they create mushroom in order to take away the association of much-room. And if you want to know about much-room, you have to come to Gumbustrand. There is one place that has very, very, very much room.
This is incredible. We need to have you on more, Michel.
Yes.
Just joking.
But that's the way.
That's the way to do it, man.
No, it's like really comical, like now we are making a bit of a confused expedition into Box Saga because I never done it like this before.
Right.
So this is also interesting for me because usually you start with a 2-hour explanation of all kinds of things.
Yes.
But it's impossible, it's like becomes like an intellectual exercise or something. And
you've done it before, so
there's so much done on it now.
Times.
Yes, I think that you can get all from tapes that are floating around anyway. But like this way, you can go in on a bit more personal, emotional feeling. It's like, Box Saga is a very nice story because there is nothing negative in Box Saga. There is not one negative story. It is first becoming a little bit heavy, like I had maybe in the first half hour or so, when you start to translate it to our time and the consequence of what it has. And our relation to the fact that, I am one person, I like my country, but I don't want to die for it.
Absolutely not.
I don't see any reason for to die for my country or for some god or the king or the queen or the fatherland, which was like a very strong image, has been a strong image in the latter part of our history.
Mm.
But we are more one type of people who want to contribute something to our country, something that people can go further on with than to keep doing the same mistake of our fathers, grandfathers, great grandfathers, and in that way make the war to be eternal without that we know what war means. Yeah,
Very.
because in the saga, war means that is a period of the year called
Spring.
spring in English. No? Yeah,
Oh.
spring is the period.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
It gives life. The
Yeah,
war
it's
Right.
always complete opposite because
It's
all the
always
children came
inverted.
out in the spring. It's a natural thing here in the north.
Well, because Yake has told me about that there's a military system
Oh,
that
the
is
Don't
not
even go there.
about
That's a long one.
killing
That's a
people.
long
So
one.
that is for another time.
the
Definitely.
the meal eater program. Isn't it the meal eater program?
Oh my God.
So then it's the
Meal
question about
ätare.
what meal are we eating when we are in the meal eater system?
The millions of sperma.
Yes, there is the story of the patrol and the corporal and the bardier and the hillebardier and the lancier and the whole
Artillery.
the
clubber.
the artillery and the infanterie.
Oh,
What
dude, yeah, that's
infant
definitely
are you
another
talking
episode.
about?
Yeah,
That's
Yeah, but this
definitely
is
all-
that's
brilliant.
heavy.
This is really brilliant.
Yeah,
like
we need
we
to
can
take that lesson.
with the meaning of the sound, we catch them in their falsification of the history.
Yes, and I think
Yeah.
the more we do this,
Yeah,
the
man.
more we
And
can
when-
get a
when we-
grasp on everything.
For sure. And when we go in the Finnish language, when we get our Finnish friends on, then we can go in the Finnish. And in the Finnish, there is the whole world of the paradise time. So there you can find out in the language exactly how we was living in paradise time.
Wow.
I
I
mean,
don't know if I want to know it Finnish.
brilliant. It's brilliant. It's brilliant.
Just a joke.
I mean, you crack up. It's you crack up. It's like even my limited Finnish was enough in order to make me realize that with this language, that is why these Finnish people, it's quite interesting subject, by the way. It's like these Finnish people have enormous problem with this story because every word they say
Yeah.
when they know the sound system is blasting them from 2021 into more than 50 million years ago. And they are just, it paralyzes them in their kala, in their thinking.
Mm.
Yeah, because what am I saying? If
Yeah.
I'm saying like this, but I'm doing like that.
It's
It's
only
this-
sticks and circles.
Did you say, what did you say for head? What was that word? Tella?
Thinking.
Ke-
Kela.
No, the thinking is kala.
Kella. Okay.
Kala has to do with clock.
It
Yeah.
needs to.
Kello is clock, and kala, it's like that what the clock does. It's
Mhm.
this
Spins.
is tick tock.
Gears turning.
Tick tock. Wheels turning.
Yeah.
And yeah, you have all your brain cell where you have all your film stored. And now you unwind your film reels from your brain cells and put them in front of your eyes and you throw them out. All the stories you've been listening.
Television.
Yeah.
It's
Kalevala.
No, television is Lucavision.
Lucavision?
Yeah, because they don't tell us any vision. You can just look to it because you can't talk. You can't talk back. You can't talk back, man. So with television is the wrong word. It's a Lucavision. Because if they would tell us a vision, we wouldn't have this problem. So maybe we have to take over television. Television must be oral.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
Ural. It must be Ural.
Rah.
It's like the mountain in between Europe and Siberia. It's the Ural. mountain.
Ural,
Mountains.
yeah.
That's right.
Ural. So the
And there's a very
Ural.
interesting, yeah. Wow.
Yeah, why are they called Ural? Why are they called Andes?
No.
Antis?
And the Andes, the Andes,
The Andes. Yeah.
the Andes,
Ah.
the Andes. The Ant is the spirit.
Hmm.
Yeah, the holy duck, the Holy Spirit.
Ande.
Heilige Anden, the holy duck.
Aqueduct.
Aqueduct.
Oh man. This is just we're just gonna be saying sounds and
Yeah, but
We
it's-
become like small children at the
It
kindergarten.
is what you.
that's
No,
what
yeah,
I
you-
love about this, because when
Yeah.
I first started seeing that, like, okay, naturally the beginning of everything is going to be the pieces of, like, you look at how children speak when they're just learning. And Dan, you and I have talked about this
Yeah.
on a number of levels, and it's such a natural progression. How can you even deny it? You know, the pieces of words come before the words. There's always pieces to the whole, and we're building this fractal world around ourselves. It's cool.
Very cool.
Oh, it's amazing.
And this has been a
And
great
that is nice.
episode.
That is nice when you have children. Also, when you have children, you can see this kind of thing happening
Oh, yeah.
around you in the
Yeah.
daily life. You know?
Oh, that's the best evidence for the fractal
Yeah.
nature of reality.
They make their own
Sure.
words for stuff, and so yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
remember I called myself Boopim when I was little, for example, for no reason. Like why?
Yeah.
Oh man, you should do some like hypnotization and go find out why you called yourself that. I bet it would be
That is
phonetic for something.
Fucking strange.
No, it's
Cool.
nice.
Yeah.
That's really nice. Man. No, it's like, where were we? We had
Oh,
something
wow.
special.
We're coming to the end though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would
Okay.
say so. This
Yeah, I
is-
think this is a good spot right
yeah,
now.
this is great.
If you want to, yeah, if you want to kind of clean up the whole, how many hours have we been sitting and talking?
2.
2 hours.
Two,
my
and this has
God.
been perfect. I don't want to cut
Yeah.
any of this. This has been a great presentation.
Yeah, awesome.
We would all love if you came back sometime and talked with us
Oh,
again.
yes.
because-
Hey, anytime.
Michel,
guys.
it's
All
been
the
a
time.
pleasure.
All the time.
Yeah.
Look,
It's been an absolute pleasure, man.
For me also, it is nice. I mean, it is also nice when people ask, and it's like I said from the beginning, it's very difficult to, in which way you do it, you know, and maybe certain things don't make sense right now, but with, let's say, added information that's going around and out, or
Mhm.
we make it ourselves, all these parts that maybe are like not having sense straight away in the beginning, they will have sense later on when you hear more stories, because then you
Yeah.
become reminded also.
Hmm.
Mhm.
That is the story. It's like the story is the story. It was a 20-year story, and I have been sitting myself because I listened to Ior until he died. So I listened 27 years, all his stories, because story after story after story, until 6 months before he died, he told me that actually he has nothing to say anymore. He feels he has been saying what he had to say. So I said, well, I think it's quite enough also, you know. My God, you know, by that time your head is like, you know, it's like this, stretched in all directions. You know.
Yeah. I can't even imagine sitting like for so long.
Yeah, but
We can't imagine.
I found out already that after listening, like, let me see, we start in the winter of 84. Within 2 years, I could make like a main line of the story, which is something that everybody else has been following also. Like Jim did it, like Kevin did it, like Stuart did it, like so many of our friends, they make a little bit in order to make like an historical line, to create like an historical overview, which of course in this Bock family, they could talk to us forever, but they have been compressing the history into a mythological concept where you don't have to talk about individual persons, but about, instead of talking about all shoemaker that lived on the planet, you create one mythological figure called shoemaker, which is like Weinemeunen. So Weinemeunen is every 12th son whose 12th son becomes 27 years old. So every of these Uko come in that position. So you create the mythological concept of Ukko, and you know it's an eternal concept, like it's a job, like Shubay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
and it's the same with the swan. Yeah, there's millions of swans have been in the history of the human being. Yeah, but it was only one woman who, in every generation, played that role. So she became the mythological character.
Yeah.
And usually they are then represented by one animal. So if you know about which animal is allocated to the character, then everywhere you are coming across images with this animal. You know, it's about swan or it's about
Hmm.
The what?
yeah.
The swan, the white swan, is also connected with Cygnus star
Yes.
constellation.
Correct. And this is the most healthy and most beauty. Hell is the North Pole before ice time, and hell T is the T coming from hell. And
Oh,
The tree. Oh my
T is East Tour, and Tour comes from Tours Hammeren, and Tours Hammeren is the symbol for the man and the woman. That's, I listened to you yesterday, and I find there's something not clear because you talk about small tour and big tour, and but tour is what.
Clitour.
Yeah,
Clitor.
Klee
Clitor.
tour. Klee is, this is Klee. Klee is when you
Yeah.
do like this when you have been bitten by one mosquito or something is itching, itching. Yeah, so it's itching.
A little
Yeah.
bump.
So Klee tour. Tour is the symbol of the family of Uden with Bock
Uh,
in the middle. This is according to what the Archbishop of Finland has been saying when we asked him that, when they asked him that what is the meaning of the Toershammer. It's the symbol for the family of Uden with Bock in the middle.
Hmm.
I think that sounds quite heavy.
Yeah.
That's a great mic drop.
Yeah. So the Toershammer is basically representing the two different sexes on the planet. Yeah,
That's beautiful.
with their friends. So
And that of course comes from the Viking system.
yeah, no, yeah, it's a little bit like for
Oh.
us, for us the Y is the U. We call it U for Yggdrasil, and in English it's Y. When you know that Yggdrasil meaning is the world tree, the tree of all living thing, and it's the basic female base to the existence of everything in the universe. Yeah, so that's Yggdrasil, the world tree, which is it is for the pirouette family, but it is very strongly the female side of it, because the female is through the input of the masculine, the female is realizing. Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's a
In
that's
the
a great one.
creating of all the different forms, life forms that exist within the universe. So the Yggdrasil is, the Yggdrasil is personally it's very personal to the lady. Let's say like that.
We are the
And,
fruits of the tree.
yes, we are more oak and they are more ash
Okay. They draw. Liksom.
in the tree. Yeah. Yeah,
You
we are
draw.
dry hand and they are Yggdrasil.
Yeah. It's
So, but that is difficult. We
Yeah.
have to explain later on because otherwise too
Okay.
much.
All right, guys.
It's
So,
sticks and circles again.
yeah,
Yes.
maybe that'll be the name of this episode.
Yeah.
Sticks and circles.
Hey,
Perfect.
what I want to ask you, I hear that you want to do another program. You want to do next program with Ananto or with Appi, or what was your idea?
Appy.
Appi. Okay, nice.
Yes.
That'd be great.
So we're gonna ask him about his book thing.
Yeah.
You
For the
you ask
listeners,
him. He has good knowledge of
that one right
Box
there.
Saga. He get mostly from Kevin and from me, and he's living 25 kilometers away from me, so we are in regular communication. And but he has maybe not the detail, but he has a good overview, and that
Yeah.
makes him more easy to talk with than with some nutcake like me who is full of detail. You know?
But that's awesome, man. We want you
Yeah,
on the
but-
side all the time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Hey, I hope to have long life and I can tell many stories. So
Yeah.
let's see, would be nice.
Sounds good, Michel.
But it's very
That's
good.
Yeah,
Boxing
Michelle, thank
Day.
you so much.
Boxing Day, I go in pension. So not really,
Boxing
but
Day.
So,
not
okay.
really.
All right, everybody.
Are you joking?
Joking.
We don't know if you're joking or not anymore.
No, I have the age that they say that you should stop to work. The only problem is that I am not member of any pension fund. I'm only member of the Dutch community, and as a Dutch community member, when you reach a certain age, or where you actually, or bureaucrat people are already 10 years in pension by that time. But anyway, normal people like me, they have to work till 66 and 4 months or something. And I reached that on Boxing Day, so I get a little support from the government, which
That's
is
nice.
like everybody get that when you reach that age. Before it was 65, but of course during my life it becomes higher and higher, and,
Yeah.
because the treasury is empty, so,
Right.
yeah, but doesn't matter. So that's quite nice. So basically, I don't have any more to work like a dog all the time in order to keep the bills going, because maybe
That's
I could do a little bit less, and it gives me also space to
Just sing
talk
more
more.
Bock.
Yeah, sing Bock Saga.
Yeah, Boxing Day. It's
Correct.
symbolical that you are gonna
Yeah, it's
retire.
Boxing Day.
The bills
Isn't it
make Bach
fantastic?
ill.
No, he's gonna sing the Bock stories for us.
Yeah,
on
yeah,
some
no
Boxing Day.
problem. Boxing Day. Yeah, fantastic.
All right.
With all these
Right.
people from Box.
Yeah.
All right,
Wow.
everybody. Well, this has been awesome. Thank you so much to
Yeah.
Michelle for joining us.
Yeah,
Sure.
thank you.
Yake,
Anytime,
Dan,
guys.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank
you
you
so
guys
much.
too.
Been an honor talking to you.
Absolutely.
Great.
Yeah.
Great honor.
I'm also happy to have been meeting you here today, and it has been a pleasure to talk a little bit here. And I hope that we, with continuing stories, we can make
Yes.
more sense out of it. We
Yeah.
start to take it a little bit more serious, also certain aspects.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
And come up with your questions, because it is also nice to answer questions. And then you can, anyway, a question can be this big, and you can get an answer like this, or like this, or like this, or like this, or, it can go very wide. And the question then gives the inspiration to say, okay, we go in that subject today. And it might have in the beginning nothing to do with your question, but
Yeah.
it will lead to it, maybe
It'll take us
after,
where we need to be.
We need like 3 questions and we're good.
Oh, yeah, it's enough. Man.
2
I think we only
hours.
asked maybe 5 in this whole conversation.
No
so.
problem. No
I
problem.
know that Don and Andy probably have tons of questions. So
Oh,
because
still
I have
lots
already
more.
asked like millions of questions. It feels like that. Privilege of knowing Jim, and he like passed me over to Michelle. So
It's like I ask you, Yake, all the time, like, what does this mean? What does this
Yeah.
mean? You're like, maybe one day I'll tell you, but not right now. I'm like,
I
oh,
don't
come
like the
on.
typing. I'm fucking terrible at this typing.
Some things are also difficult to answer just
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that. Because
Yeah.
it's really not easy, and you must have a
I
bit of
know.
a background in order also to not sit there and go away and think that what
Yeah.
did the guy tell me now?
Andy
Come on,
Andy asked
give
me a
break.
question yesterday. He sent me a text and asked me one question, and I said, "Dude, call me."
Yeah.
And then we ended up talking
It's
for 3 hours because of
It's
one
easier that
question.
way. That's how it goes.
Yeah. I think it was the Nephilim thing.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right,
Beautiful.
guys.
Man.
Well,
All right.
again,
Guys.
thanks to Michelle for
Sure.
joining us.
power.
Yake, Dan, we got Rising from the Ashes podcast and the Deep Share
Yep.
podcast. You can find this episode and the future episodes on those
Mhm.
feeds, as well as Roots of Creation's own RSS feed and YouTube page. Dan,
Yes.
Yeah.
And also, Roots of Creation is on Google Podcasts, it's on Podcast Addict, and it's on Spotify right
Yeah,
now.
this,
Confirmed.
podcast.
We will try to get it confirmed on more platforms also. But right now, those 3 are up, so you can find it there, and we will continue to add more.
And again, if I'm assuming by the airing of this episode will be on YouTube regularly, just the same release time and day as the podcast. So
yeah, this podcast is called Root of Creation. Just if you missed.
Roots of Creation. Yes. And this has been beautiful. And everybody
have a good time.
take it
That's
all
a
in
good,
and see us next time.
Yes.
All right, guys.